Yeah, we're about to look at that, Derby. I haven't seen it yet. So without further ado, let's jump right into that, shall we? Interior designs. Journey to 4.0. Let's see.
This week, it's another Journey to 4.0 special, where we jump farther ahead and take a look at work scheduled to make its Persistent Universe debut in the upcoming 4.x branch of release. And this week, we're proud to bring Star Citizen art director Ian Leyland back to share with us a first look inside the buildings of Star Citizen's landing zones.
Here we go.
So building interiors is something we've always wanted to do, you know, because of, we've had cities in the game for a while. We have many cities, we have many buildings, therefore we could have many interiors. It's a perfect opportunity to put in a lot of play space.
Ooh.
Now, with the players flying around these buildings, they've been largely urban landscapes, fairly uninteractable. You know, we've done a few landing pads.
This reminds me of Bed Bananas. They really put a Talon over Area 18, bruh. This was exactly Bed Bananas ending.
Fairly uninteractable. You know, we've done a few landing pads to get the players in and out there, but really the real good stuff was on the inside. So up until now, we've been on the outside wondering about the inside, and today we're going to talk about the inside.
So it seems like they're all going to be designed from the top down, is what I'm gathering, right? Because they have the landing pads on Area 18, they have them on Microtech, and now they're having them on Lorville. Orison already has building interiors on the platforms. Something to keep in mind. The Orison platform missions, those buildings are pretty interiored up. You know, they got the little gyms and shit, and like the different, when you do Siege of Orison, it seems pretty hooked up. Hey, what's up, Toby? How you doing, my man? Yes, hopefully we do get a strip club in here, Hummel. Alright, let's see. But yeah, like I said, it looks like they're going to design from the top down, since they're going to want you to enter from the roof. Land on the roof and then enter the building that way. So I'm curious if these building interiors means we can exit on the ground level. I highly doubt it. I think it's just going to be you land on the building, you go down, you go through. Yeah, let's see.
Looking outside.
Journey to 4.0. You ain't getting this shit anytime soon.
All right, so with building interiors, the way in which we approach the concept development, now this was just a pure blue sky ideation phase, and the idea was to create inspirational material to use that as a content to inspire conversations, to find out what do we want to do for the game, what is cool for the game, and use that as the initial springboard for the conversation. So what we'll be looking through here is a presentation of blue sky ideation, primarily used as a springboard to start conversations with Chris, with the design director, and the game director, to understand what do we want to put in the game, what could be cool for the game, and we use that as that initial inspiration point. So when we're talking about building interiors, how could we start to break that down? So right off the bat on the top, it's the rooftop spaces. So these would be the primary access points for the player. Then just below that, the maintenance spaces, these could be industrial or technical.
Okay, so I think I was right. It looks like we're going to pretty much always land via the rooftop, which makes sense. They were clearly designed with that in mind from a while ago.
Also, we can have residential. So residential could be entire building blocks, so it could be a proportion. Then after that, we've got commercial. So these could be shopping, it could be offices, it could be social. And then at the bottom, obviously, we've got lobbies. Now, these also could be access points for the player.
Oh.
For example, if you're inside Area 18, the player can get access to it there.
Ooh.
And then lastly, we've got the underground. Now, these could be interesting as a connector space between buildings. So maybe you've gone in through one building, you go down, and it could bring you through to another part of the building.
Yo, that'll be just like Coruscant, bro. That is sick. So imagine the underground part of the city. That is sick, bro. And I really like that they. Okay, all this love that they're giving Area 18 tells me that Area 18 is gonna get remastered very shortly. Between the new player experience and them mentioning it again here in building interiors, it seems like it's a no-brainer. It's also the oldest one that hasn't been touched yet. Imagine renting an apartment and furnishing it however you want. That'd be pretty cool. That'd be a nice step up, towards persistent habs. Can't even imagine how complex the transit system would be. It probably would be largely unchanged, I imagine. Underground black markets. That'd be pretty cool.
Building. Let's start with rooftops. Now, up until now, we've largely designed our cityscapes to be more of a backdrop to the landing zone.
Nice art.
We have the social space generally in the middle, and then the cityscape goes around it. And they've been designed to give the best composition, to be interesting to fly around. But we've not really thought about designing these buildings from the inside out. So what we're looking at here is some potential concepts for what could be interesting landing spaces that drives the architecture of the building. With landing pads, it doesn't necessarily need to be on the top of the building. It could be, halfway down or lower. So imagine, you're in the lower parts of the city, and then we'd open up these additional play spaces. And as you can see here.
Oh, I see what they're saying. So, like, even though it's not at the roof of the building, it's like a cut, maybe like 4 floors up from the ground. That'd be pretty cool.
Here, it's not just the landing pad, it's the gameplay space that goes along with it too. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be a single building. Imagine there is a network hub that services a few different buildings. So what we're looking at here is maybe like a transit hub where the player could land, get on some transit, and then that would lead to some buildings.
So this is another really interesting thing. Even at Lorville, if you look at the main tower, you see little hangar entrances at the top of that tower on Lorville. So I'm assuming that with the rework, they're finally gonna open those up to let you land inside. Go straight to the business district. That'd be pretty damn cool. Imagine launch tubes for small crafts at the part/enter. That'd be dope.
Okay, so maintenance spaces. So these could be really interesting in terms of player interaction. They could be dealing with the power or the maintenance of the building. And then also you could have technical spaces. So these would be more for technicians. It could deal with the data or the communications.
Hacking gameplay.
And what we're looking at here is potential some, gameplay puzzles where the player has to work their way inside the main operation booth.
Oh, let's fucking go! Hacking gameplay, bro. Data running gameplay. This is what we want to see, man. This is exactly what we want to see.
So moving on to residential. So there's a huge amount of potential here. What we wanted to do with residential is 2 things. One, explore investigating the potential player housing. So with that, we want to be able to create a variety of interior layouts. And also we want to explore a variety of architectural styles. So when we're looking at potential housing layouts, we wanted something fairly modular in a way in which we could create a variety of combinations. So whether it's living spaces or habitation spaces or social spaces. And also here we want the players to eventually be able to populate the player-owned habitation. So you see here like a first indication of how, the sort of dressing styles that you'd be able to do.
Fancy schmancy. Now just give us the AI that works. Give us the alcohol that intoxicates, and give us that nice piano. That piano looks amazing. It's like a cyberpunk piano. I would get that piano in real life with some LED trim on the bottom, looking like Tron.
Outside of something that's fairly utilitarian, we also want to do something that could be fairly high-end. So here we're just exploring some ideas about what a space could feel like on a different architectural style. And more generous windows,
Nice.
Interior spaces dedicated to more than just habitation. And these would be focused on other landing zones. So imagine you come across these in Area 18, or it could be when we come to Terra. And also, like I said, it could be informing.
Oh, they mentioned Terra. That's like the second Earth. We are eventually gonna get the Sol system as well with the real Earth. Landing zones are supposed to be New York, Moscow, and Shanghai. 3 landing zones on Earth. That would be awesome.
Future player-owned habitation architectural sets.
What up, Angel?
Now, outside of the living quarters, there's also the social spaces just outside. And we want these to be more than just the corridors that we're seeing in the game right now. So these could be multi-layered social spaces. And these could also inform advanced traversal routes for the player to...
So this looks like investigation missions. Which they're saying they really want to flesh those out. They've been working on them a lot. I think they mentioned that in CitizenCon. This looks like some of that. This guy's in a trench coat. He's over here investigating what seems to be a murder. He has a drone behind him, scanning, probably for fingerprints and other evidence. I doubt that's gonna be. And we're gonna get drones eventually, but I doubt that would be, you know, when investigation comes out. I don't think we'll have drones by then. But this is a cool concept. Star Citizen's all about the concept, so. You know. Yeah, that is concept art. But this does look pretty damn sick. And we do have some light investigations in the game already, you know? My favorite being that Kovalex one. You go to like an abandoned station to look for some woman's husband is missing. If you guys ever get that investigation mission pop up on your Moby, definitely check it out. It's going to make you think a little bit, try to find the clues, but it's pretty fun. It got me hyped for the future of it. Yeah, a lot of them are in concept, Hell Villager.
be able to get inside these habitation rooms.
Oh, this is Hurston.
So as we're talking through various architectural styles, what you're seeing here is just a collection of ideas, a collection of architectural intent to create like a palette or a mood that will inform art style and gameplay opportunities.
Commercial area.
So outside of residential, we're moving into the commercial area.
Okay.
So what this means is it means we can look at areas that are more gameplay focused outside of player habitation. So when we're talking about these could be office blocks, these could be corporate owned. Inside here, there could be corporate wings, there could be manufacturing, there could be office spaces. And what we try to think about with these, it's more than just a flat room. There should be advanced traversal, it should be multi-tiered. So outside of the commercial offices, we've also got like restaurants and bars.
What's up,
So what we're looking at here is a pretty cool like skyline bar in Lowville. That could be fun.
Who the hell wants to go drinking at Hurston? You're one bad day away from entering a slave contract.
But also in restaurants, Chris always described the idea of really high-end restaurants in the game
Detroit.
where you can get access to food choices that isn't available anywhere else.
That'd be cool.
So right at the foot of the building, we're going to start talking about the lobby. So as I said before, these are going to be access points to the player.
Now this is what interests me a lot, because if it was just entering the roof, landing there, entering the roof, then that's a very like closed off experience. But if you can enter the roof and exit the ground level, that's a big deal. Now we're talking about a true open world experience, a true like no strings attached experience where you can come and go 2 ways, and once you go out onto the street, it's like you're in the world, you know? This is what's really going to tie everything together and make it feel awesome.
But also we can do more than just a standard foyer that we're seeing in the game right now. So this sort of space we're seeing here is, imagine there's an underground transit network, and that transit station feeds a network of building lobbies.
Bruh.
So these could be social spaces, these could be really good combat spaces.
Jazz and the God
They
knows.
could have access to mini restaurants or bars or facilities.
Guys, this looks beautiful. I'm... CIG is an art studio first and a game company second. I swear to God.
And we're just showing that in a variety of art styles. So one's a fairly low end, one could be fairly high end, but the infrastructure is the same. So as we're exploring art style opportunities, this then drives where it would be appropriate. So some would be more appropriate in somewhere like Area 18, some would be more appropriate in somewhere like Horizon, and obviously some would be more appropriate for future landing zones like Odessa or Prime.
Anybody know what those are? Odessa and Prime? That sounds like some Pyro shit, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. The only landing zone I know about in Pyro is Ruin Station, which I don't think is even a landing zone, it's just a station. Yeah, haven't heard of that. What up, Vivi? How you doing? Hey, I like the Pikachus. That's gonna separate the rich from the poor based on the concept art? Maybe. It's gonna, it's gonna be different in a place like Hurston versus, somewhere like Orison.
And also when we're talking about lobbies, again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to describe multi-layer traversal spaces. So in these illustrations, you're seeing a variety of routes to then help inform the initial conversation with level design. Now, finally, we're going to talk about the underground. Now, this is, I think, one of the coolest spaces.
Ooh, the underground. Now, imagine this is how you get... This is the only way you take the transit, right? Alright, Derpy, I'll see you soon. So yeah, like, you know how in Hurston there's like a million train stops? Now those train stops might actually take you to different places with different buildings and points of interest,
Rather than just focusing on the positive axis of the building, we're going to look at the underground. Now, what this does, it means we can access a whole area of play space that doesn't need to be contained inside the building. So within a lobby, we want the player to start to traverse down into these spaces, and these could be underground transit networks. They could be abandoned underground transit networks. This then could drive potential racing opportunities. So when we was doing this, we thought, oh, it'd be really cool. Like, what would it look like if there's an underground street race going on there?
Hey, little hover bike race.
Also, there could be traversal opportunities. Like I said before, if the player wanted to go into one building, down, and then through, and then up into another building, what would that traversal network be like? Especially if we're thinking about if it's an older part of the underground of a city, maybe it's less used, people have built up. That would instantly inspire a whole bunch of traversal and investigation missions there. Or maybe there's an old aqueduct or an old infrastructure underground. This could be perfect for underground street racing or other racing opportunities. So in a nutshell, what we looked at is a blue sky investigation into what building interiors could be like for the game.
Okay.
These are essentially dungeon kits.
Dungeon kits.
We want to be able to work on these areas in a fairly procedural manner, and we want these to be dungeon opportunities for gameplay spaces. It also will start to inform the future of player-owned habitation.
Exactly.
And the type of visuals or look and feels that could be. So this ties into a much larger initiative. So we're seeing it a little bit now with the redo of Lorville. That's turning into a much bigger cityscape. And what that means is every city in the game is ready for these building interior spaces.
Okay, so two things I take away from that. One, Lorville is going to have a lot more to it than we even thought when they showed it last week. It might even have some underground stuff. Who knows? Secondly, it kind of what he just said really confirms to me they are going to work on Area 18 next. They kind of have to.
Now, one thing to note is the cityscapes are probably going to change a little bit. Just from an initial investigation, we found our buildings are quite small. So expect to see the skylines go through a period of transition, but that's cool because that means we're designing the inside of the buildings and then we'll redo the architecture to fit to that. So I think it's going to be super positive for the game.
And I'm glad he said that too, because that's something they learned with ship design, is they learned they need to work from the inside out and not from the outside in. Because when you work from the outside in, it doesn't make shit practical. You need to keep the interior in mind, because in reality that's way more important than the exterior. And the same thing could be seen here with the buildings. They were designed just to look cool, boom, put them there. But now when you gotta consider interior, what you're gonna do in there, how big is it, it kind of changes things. So this is good, especially moving forward. They're probably gonna do this where they work inside and then go out.
game. So just in case we was thinking it's all just blue sky concept, actually we're going to start full production on these spaces right at the end of this quarter.
Hey, going into production. Damn, the art is nuts, man. I want to race those hover bikes, bro.
So, what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that much like the new underground facilities we showcased before,
What was that
building
camera angle?
interiors will be a new series of modular set pieces, enabling a whole host of gameplay opportunities, from trade to exploration to combat and PvP and much more. And that, much like those new UGFs, they're going into production now, and in fact, by the time this airs, will already have started. And that the journey to 4.0 may have Pyro at its center, but it will still continue to evolve all aspects of Star Citizen and the existing persistent universe around it. Now, we'll be back with more Inside Star Citizen next week. But for our journey to 4.0, I'm Jared Huckabee, and we'll be back in about a month or so with our next big look forward. See you then.
Okay, so I guess he means in about a month we'll get another Journey to 4.0. Wow, interesting stuff. Really, really cool. Yeah, that stuff was awesome. Really, really hyped for these building interiors, man. It definitely seems like they're learning from what they took from the ships, and they're applying it to the landing zones now, which is designed with functionality in mind. You know, designed with what is the player experience going to be? How is that going to be at its best form with what we make, you know? And then once they create that inner space, then they can work on how it looks on the outside. That made me so happy to hear, man, because once they learned that with ships started coming out a lot better. You know, you look at the older ships, something like the Constellation, you can very much tell that it was made from the outside and then worked in. Whereas now with ships, they really they'll kind of concept what it looks like, but in terms of designing it, they go inside first and out. And that's great to hear for buildings. There was a lot more depth to this than I thought. I'm not gonna lie. I really thought it was gonna be like, hey, you land on the roof, you go in, you come back to the roof, and it's a rip. You know, like that's really how I thought it was gonna be. But no, this is in depth, bro. You can go in from the roof, out from the roof, in from the ground floor, out from the ground floor, interconnect everything with underground passages, transit, racing hover bikes in between the streets on Area 18. Like, it looks really clean. The other unforeseen thing, I mean, I should have saw this coming, but the opportunity for gameplay in here, outside of just, investigation, I didn't really think, we could have hacking gameplay, data running gameplay in here, shops and commerce and things like that. So this was actually a really, really, really cool episode. Yeah, actually very excited for this, even though it is a 4.0 thing, so it doesn't look like we'll be getting this in one of our 3.x patches. But yeah, expect to see this in 2024, maybe? Who knows? But alright, guys, let's move on.